musical tone, some jokes he had kept for a season of woe, but the crew would do nothing but groan. He served out some grog with a liberal hand, and bade them sit down on the beach, and they could not but own that their captain looked grand as he stood and delivered his speech. "Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ears." They were all of them fond of quotations, so they drank to his health, and they gave him 3 cheers, while he served out additional rations. "We have sailed many months, we have sailed many weeks, 4 weeks to the month you may mark, but never as yet, 'tis your captain who speaks, have we caught the least glimpse of a Snark. We have sailed many weeks, we have sailed many days, 7 days to the week I allow, but a Snark on the which we might lovingly gaze, we have never beheld till now. Come listen, my men, while I tell you again the 5 unmistakable marks, by which you may know, wheresoever you go, the warranted genuine Snarks. Let us take them in order. The first is the taste, which is meager and hollow, but crisp, like a coat that is rather too tight in the waist, with a flavor of will-o'-the-wisp. Its habit of getting up late, you'll agree that it carries too far when I say that it frequently breakfasts at 5 o'clock tea and dines on the following day. The third is its slowness in taking a jest, should you happen to venture on one. It will sigh like a thing that is deeply distressed, and it always looks grave at a pun. The fourth is its fondness for bathing machines, which it constantly carries about, and believes that they add to the beauty of scenes, a sentiment open to doubt. The fifth is ambition. It next will be right to describe each particular batch, distinguishing those that have feathers and bite, and those that have whiskers and scratch. For although common Snarks do no manner of harm, yet I feel it my duty to say, some are boojums. The bellman broke off in alarm, for the baker had fainted away. Fit, the third, the baker's tale. They roused him with muffins, they roused him with ice, they roused him with mustard and cress, they roused him with jam and judicious advice, they set him conundrums to guess. When at length he sat up and was able to speak, his sad story he offered to tell, and the bellman cried, "Silence, not even a shriek," and excitedly tingled his bell. There was silence supreme, not a shriek, not a scream, scarcely even a howl or a groan, as the man they called Ho told his story of woe in an antediluvian tone. My father and mother were honest though poor. "Skip all that," cried the bellman in haste. "If it once becomes dark, there's no chance of a Snark. We have hardly a minute to waste." "I skip 40 years," said the baker in tears, and proceed without further remark, "to the day when you took me aboard of your ship to help you in hunting the Snark. A dear uncle of mine, after whom I was named, remarked when I bade him farewell, 'Oh, skip your dear uncle,' the bellman exclaimed, as he angrily tingled his bell. He remarked to me then, said the mildest of men, 'If your Snark be a Snark, that is right. Fetch it home by all means, you may serve it with greens, and it's handy for striking a light. You may seek it with thimbles, and seek it with care, you may hunt it with forks and hope, you may threaten its life with a railway share, you may charm it with smiles and soap.' That's exactly the method," the bellman bold, in hasty parentheses cried. "That's exactly the way I have always been told that the capture of Snarks should be tried. But, oh, beamish nephew, beware of the day, if your Snark be a boojum, for then you will softly and suddenly vanish away, and never be met with again. It is this that oppresses my soul when I think of my uncle's last words, and my heart is like nothing so much as a bowl brimming over with quivering curds. It is this, we have had that before," the bellman indignantly said, and the baker replied, "Let me say it once more, it is this that I dread. I engage with the Snark every night after dark in a dreamy, delirious fight. I serve it with greens in those shadowy scenes, and I use it for striking a light. But if ever I meet with a boojum that day, in a moment, of this I am sure, I shall softly and suddenly vanish away, and the notion I cannot endure." Fit, the fourth, the hunting. The bellman looked uffish and wrinkled his brow. "If only you'd spoken before! It's excessively awkward to mention it now, with the Snark, so to speak, at the door. We should all of us grieve, as you well may believe, if you never were met with again. But surely, my man, when the voyage began, you might have suggested it then? It's excessively awkward to mention it now, as I think I've already remarked, And the man they call High replied with a sigh, "I informed you the day we embarked." You may charge me with murder or want of sense, we are all of us weak at times, but the slightest approach to a false pretense was never among my crimes. I said it in Hebrew, I said it in Dutch, I said it in German and Greek, but I wholly forgot, and it vexes me much, that English is what you speak. "'Tis a pitiful tale," said the bellman, whose face had grown longer at every word, "but now that you've stated the whole of your case, more debate would be simply absurd. The rest of my speech," he explained to his men, "you shall hear when I've leisure to speak it, but the Snark is at hand, let me tell you again, 'tis your glorious duty to seek it. To seek it with thimbles, to seek it with care, to pursue it with forks and hope, to threaten its life with a railway share, to charm it with smiles and soap. For the Snark's a peculiar creature that won't be caught in a commonplace way. Do all that you know and try all that you don't, not a chance must be wasted today. For England expects I forbear to proceed, 'tis a maxim tremendous but trite, and you'd best be unpacking the things that you need to rig yourselves out for the fight." Then the banker endorsed a blank check which he crossed, and changed his loose silver for notes. The baker with care combed his whiskers and hair, and shook the dust out of his coats. The boots and the broker were sharpening a spade, each working the grindstone in turn, but the beaver went on making lace and displayed no interest in the concern. Though the barrister tried to appeal to its pride, and vainly proceeded to cite a number of cases in which making laces had been proved an infringement of right. The maker of bonnets ferociously planned a novel arrangement of bows, while the billiard marker with quivering hand was chalking the tip of his nose. But the butcher turned nervous and dressed himself fine, with yellow kid gloves and a ruff, said he felt it exactly like going to dine, which the bellman declared was all stuff. "Introduce me, now there's a good fellow," he said, "if we happen to meet it together." And the bellman, sagaciously nodding his head, said that must depend on the weather. The beaver went simply galumphing about at seeing the butcher so shy, and even the baker, though stupid and stout, made an effort to wink with one eye. "Be a man," said the bellman in wrath as he heard the butcher beginning to sob. "Should we meet with a jubjub, that desperate bird, we shall need all our strength for the job." Fit the Fifth. The Beaver's Lesson. They sought it with thimbles, they sought it with care, they pursued it with forks and hope. They threatened its life with a railway share, they charmed it with smiles and soap. Then the butcher contrived an ingenious plan for making a separate sally, and fixed on a spot unfrequented by man, a dismal and desolate valley. But the very same plan to the beaver occurred, it had chosen the very same place, yet neither betrayed, by a sign or a word, the disgust that appeared in his face. Each thought he was thinking of nothing but Snark, and the glorious work of the day, and each tried to pretend that he did not remark that the other was going that way. But the valley grew narrow and narrower still, and the evening got darker and colder, till, merely from nervousness, not from goodwill, they marched along shoulder to shoulder. Then a scream, shrill and high, rent the shuddering sky, and they knew that some danger was near. The beaver turned pale to the tip of its tail, and even the butcher felt queer. He thought of his childhood left far, far behind, that blissful and innocent state. The sound so exactly recalled to his mind a pencil that squeaks on a slate. "'Tis the voice of the jubjub," he suddenly cried, this man that they used to call Dunce. "As the bellman would tell you," he added with pride, "I have uttered that sentiment once. 'Tis the note of the jubjub, keep count I entreat, you will find I have told it you twice. 'Tis the song of the jubjub, the proof is complete, if only I've stated it thrice." The beaver had counted with scrupulous care, attending to every word, but it fairly lost heart, and outgrabe in despair, when the third repetition occurred. It felt that, in spite of all possible pains, it had somehow contrived to lose count, and the only thing now was to rack its poor brains by reckoning up the amount. "Two added to one, if that could but be done," it said with one's fingers and thumbs, recollecting with tears how in earlier years it had taken no pains with its sums. "The thing can be done," said the butcher, "I think. The thing must be done, I am sure. The thing shall be done. Bring me paper and ink, the best there is time to procure." The beaver brought paper, portfolio, pens, and ink in unfailing supplies, while strange creepy creatures came out of their dens and watched them with wondering eyes. So engrossed